Welcome back. Well, if I was looking around the world today and I could see everything, and I wanted to look at Jehovah's Witness news, I think I'd be playing a very sad violinish kind of song. I would be. I remember back in the day we used to pride ourselves. We'd look around over all the earth. The organization was growing. The memorials were overflowing. We didn't have enough seats for the memorials. And it appeared to be a religion that was growing and flourishing and things were happening. But underneath all of that growth, there lies a time bomb ticking, and it's the Elders Book. And it's this old Elders Book that they had back then, and they've revised it so many times since the Australian Commission. They've been forced to because of the governments. The governments are coming in and looking in on them and realizing that this religion is not what it appears to be. We didn't realize this ourselves when we were inside the religion. Many of us were not elders. We were not privy to these secret letters that would come back and forth, the secretness that was put into the Elders Book. It was like a secret little group. If you could become an elder, if you could qualify, and you could qualify all day long, folks, but if you were not picked, you had to be hand-picked by the elders, by that group, the existing group, as well as the circuit overseer that would come in and look at you. They would look at you just like from a distance, monitor you. And if you didn't fit into that group, if you weren't a yes man, you had to be a yes man to fit into an elder. You could qualify through the yin-yang, be a great husband, leader of your family, out in the service, pioneering, all of those things. But if you are not a yes man, you will not get picked. You will always stay a ministerial servant or not even. You see, ministerial servants are not privy to those secret elders' letters all those years, you see. So the organization's growing, flooding people. We didn't have enough seats at the memorial. And in the meantime, the elders were hushing over things. They were covering a lot of things up. So we're talking about that in psychology today, and all this disfellowshipping. A lot of the elders' meetings, I didn't realize it, but it's a judicial book. We were told the Elders' Book was a loving, shepherding book. The word loving is in that book 15 times. The word judicial is in it 337 times. I may be off by one or two, but I know the 15 on the love and 5 on the word love. Just 5 times love is in there. But judicial is in there over 300 times, 337 times, the word judicial. It's a judicial book. It's a law book for the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's secret, and they can't use it in court. It's not part of, you see, if the courts come in and want to look at the Elders' Book, they say, hold on here, this is freedom of religion. You guys have no business sticking your noses into our religion. And up until now, folks, they've been getting away with it. But up until now, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are putting a lot of pressure on, and they have been. But now with the internet, it's unstoppable. Every day there's more and more growth on the XJW community online. There's more and more talk. So this is becoming public in a big way. It's great, and that's what has to happen. Everything that is hidden will be revealed. And that's what it says in God's Word. Kid you not. We showed it many times in this video. Anyways, today we're talking about how religious shunning is ruining people's lives. And I want to talk first of all about wishful thinking. Wishful thinking and positive thinking. What's the difference? Positive thinking is associated with high emotional stability, positive thinking, and positive consequences. So positive thinking is great, whereas wishful thinking was associated with low emotional stability and negative consequences, wishful thinking. Now, what is the fallacy of wishful thinking? The ought is fallacy occurs when you assume that the way you want things to be is the way they are. This also is called wishful thinking. Wishful thinking is believing what you want to be true, no matter what the evidence is, without regard for the evidence at all, or assuming that something is not true because you do not want it to be so. Is that not what the Watchtower is doing? Wishful thinking? They want, they take the Bible. We all take the Bible. They want the Bible to say that they're God's only ones. The chosen ones, the faithful and discreet slave. The rulers over the world, basically. Everyone else is wrong. Is that positive thinking or is that wishful thinking? You see, the way I read it, it's wishful thinking. It's a fallacy. It's when you assume everything is the way you want it to be. You want it to be like this. You assume that. So it's a fallacy. It's wishful thinking. It's not positive thinking, because positive thinking happens when you can make things happen. It's positive thinking. So positive thinking, I want to get a petition going in Canada here. We start a petition up. That's positive thinking. Our positive thinking is we want to stop shunning, right? Especially towards children, young people. My children were shunned, disfellowshipped and shunned. Yeah, it was bad. So we all have stories, and we want to get our stories out to the Member of Parliament. We talked about that in this channel. So is it wishful thinking that we want to stop this organization from shunning? Or is it positive thinking? Well, it's positive thinking because we're doing something about it. We get a petition going, and we get this thing going. We get it to Parliament. That's what they did in Norway. That's what they're doing in Japan. These are all ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, New Zealand, Australia. It's happening with the Dutch government. It's happening all over the world. It's happening in the U.S., in Pennsylvania. All over the U.S. and all the states, people are speaking out. People are getting their letters in to the Member of Parliament. They're letting the Parliament know, hey, I was a Jehovah's Witness. I was a child. I grew up there, and I had to deal with all this. I was put into forced labor. I didn't want to be out ringing doorbells every day on the weekends, you know. You see, to a child, a length of time is a lot bigger to them than to an adult. So you put a child in an hour or a 2-hour door-to-door thing, that's a big amount of time for a child. A lot bigger than it is for you and I. You know, for you and I, it's just like a blink. But for that child, that's their whole weekend. That's their whole morning. They could have been watching cartoons. They could have been playing with their friends. But they're out there, and they're programmed to believe from infancy that this is what they should be doing, ringing doorbells as children. And that's wrong when we see that happening in the organization. But this wishful thinking that the Watchtower has is that they're going to push this Armageddon to happen. It's kind of like Zionism, when you're pushing for something to happen, rather than standing back and letting God take care of the judging, letting God take care of this stuff. And not everyone is cut out to preach. We ran that on some other videos, that the Bible itself says that not everyone is cut out to be teachers or preachers. Not everyone. In fact, the Bible says few. Few are actually cut out to be teachers, preachers. So this whole fallacy that the Watchtower has, where this wishful thinking, where they believe that Jehovah's going to step in and rid them of their problems. That's wishful thinking. You see, number one, God, the way I read the Bible, is not going to step in and protect you so you can hide a crime. Why would God protect you so you could hide a crime? That's wishful thinking. That's not positive thinking. That's wishful thinking. So wishful thinking can cause problems. Even in our ex-JW community, there's a lot of wishful thinking. People are wishing that, all these changes started happening, so now there's some wishful thinking out there that maybe there's a 10-year plan. Maybe they're going to even change their name. Hey, I heard this from, so this stuff gets going on. It's wishful thinking. It's as bad as the Watchtower. That's what we emulate when we do wishful thinking. So we have to have facts. In the XJW community, we like to make sure that we can validate our news. When we look around the world and we see news happening, we want to be able to validate it and make sure that it comes from a reputable source. And sometimes we don't get it right, and then we have to do another video and kind of an apology or correct it, just change it. And that's what we do. That's what you'll see most video creators do. But the Watchtower, here's what they do. Okay, here it is.
And also, the governing body is neither inspired nor infallible, and so it can err in doctrinal matters or in organizational direction. Well, knowing this, then, we are not embarrassed about adjustments that are made, nor is an apology needed for not getting it exactly right previously. We understand this is how Jehovah operates. He reveals matters gradually when it is needed.
Okay, so that's how Jehovah works. Jehovah doesn't get it right. His true representatives, they're fallible. They make mistakes. They're not infallible. They're not inspired. So don't sue us because we're not inspired. We're not the ones that made these rules. We're just running the company. We're running this JW org. We're elected in. We're the governing body. Ooh. And we don't want to be at fault for all of this bad stuff that's going on in the organization right now. We're going to do our best to make some changes. That's what they're saying in a closed room. They're not admitting this to anybody. That's the problem. They're not admitting this. So they have a lot of wishful thinking going on. They wish that people are going to come back. That's his fellowship people. So you can say hi to them at least at the hall. So they're wishing that'll happen. Is it happening? We heard some reports that the halls are half full. Memorial, they're not full. Is this going to happen? This is creating a lot of speculation. What's going on? Why are you getting up and doing these statements that you're not even inspired and it looks mixed up? You're changing your rules. Within 6 months, you can grow a beard. You don't have to wear a tie. You can wear slacks as a sister within 6 months. You don't have to count time. No more of this time counting. You just check a box if you said, hey, here's a business card, Jehovah's Witness on the bus on the way to work. Once. Just do that once in the month. Check the box. You don't even have to go door to door. In fact, you shouldn't be going door to door. They know that. They know that children shouldn't, but yet they're building all these videos about little kids preaching and all the door-to-door work so they can program the little kids. They're building all these videos, training little kids to be little robots, little slaves, ringing doorbells as little kids. Why are they doing that? They're not waking up. This is not an organization that's waking up. It wants to keep brainwashing the children. This is an organization that knows how to control the minds of its followers, folks. This is what we realize when we get out. And they do that with fear. Fear is the huge one. Shunning, fellowshipping, fear. So they're laxing up. They want to look good in front of the governments. Norway, they want a little bit of publicity, but this is backfiring on them. The governments are looking in and saying, you haven't changed anything. How did the governments know? Well, because there's a lot of us out here. And we can get in the inside. We spent our lives in there. We have a right to come on the outside and talk about this. You see where the governments can't, but we do. We can talk about our human rights. And as disfellowshipped, shunned people, how our human rights are violated. We can talk about that. There's a lot of us now. They estimate that there's about 1 million ex-Jehovah's Witnesses out there. So 1/10 of the organization is out here. 1 million. So there's 1 million voices that can and will get together as this gains more publicity. And they'll throw in their vote as to what they think about shunning and everything else in this big world of things when we look out there. So the big world of things, and the Bible included, does not support any of the JW stuff. This is all indoctrination and programming. All like using the Bible with a twist. And that's what we have. So it becomes wishful thinking, the Watchtower, the Paradise Earth. All these things are wishful thinking. They can't validate that. You can't prove it from the Bible. And in fact, Jesus says his kingdom's no part of the world. So it's there's a lot of clear places once you start looking, and it shows us that we're all Jesus' brothers. In fact, we all should be taken of the emblems. If we coming out, we're Christians, we claim to be Christians, we claim to be followers of Christ, but we're not listening to his command. He said, keep doing this in remembrance of me. Keep partaking of the emblems. Keep doing it. Some religions do it all the time, every Mass. Some religions, they do the emblems and so forth in a different way, but they follow that command. Jesus said he didn't say keep doing it once, or keep doing it on this day. He just said keep doing this in remembrance of me. So in other words, he said when you're sitting down and breaking bread and having wine, think about me. Think about how you can emulate me. This is what Jesus is saying to us. How can we emulate him? So we can do that by being conscientious of how we view the children. He taught the disciples to be like the children. He said, if you want to be great, and they're all struggling, who is going to be the greatest of them when Jesus leaves? Who's going to take over? Who's going to run the show? That's kind of a man thing, isn't it? Well, Jesus said, be like the children. If you want to be the greatest one amongst us, be like the children. Is that what the governing body says? I don't think so. So we know as Jehovah's Witnesses that our children are our little slaves. They're our little robots. And you, little child, are going to make me look good in front of the elders because I want to be an elder one day. That's what I want to be. See, that's what we all thought. So we force our little children to be little robots, little slaves, for the Watchtower. Every Saturday we have them out there ringing the doorbells. And we're programming those little children from infancy. It becomes hypnotized. It becomes part of their subconscious. And so that's why we have so much work to do when we come out. And here's some of the work. We're going to take a look at it. We're going to go to an article by Psychology Today. And some of the big names out there are running these articles on Jehovah's Witnesses. So how Jehovah's Witness shunning ruins lives. They might as well come out and say it, but they just said religious shunning. A form of institutionalized estrangement. Shunning hurts health of the excluded. Institutionalized. That's an important word, folks, because it's like a jail. It's an institution. This organization's an institution. It'll tell you when it's going to jail people and who gets out of jail. It makes those decisions. It's an institution. Key points. Religious shunning is a social death penalty that results in long-term detrimental effects on mental health. We know that. If you came out of the Jehovah's Witness, you know that. I know that. We know that. We talk about it. Now, the brain registers exclusion as physical pain that cuts deeper and lasts longer than having a cut. A cut will heal up and you'll see the scar after a while. And you really don't feel anything. Until you look at the scar, you might remember it. But ostracism, it's deep and it's always there. And it's always an open wound. It never heals. Folks, these wounds never heal unless we get them down in writing. And that's why we say, go to infos, the letters for change, .info. In the description below, get your letter out, write your story, get it to the right person, the Parliament, MP. Member of Parliament in your jurisdiction. It's all done for you in that website. Now, ostracism instigates actions to recover thwarted need of belonging, self-esteem, and meaningful existence. Ostracism. It instigates these actions. So we all as humans need to belong. We need to belong, and we at least need to belong to our families. The Bible supports that 100%. But JW.org made sure that they don't agree with that. Because if you go to JW.org and you plug in 10 commandments, are we under them? And you go in, it says N-O, period. No. That's how they open it up, that article. No. Why? In the Ten Commandments, it says to honor your parents. Serious command, all the way through the Bible. And you see that unity, that family unity is broken apart by this organization. Because this organization, if you're a part of it, you have to honor the governing body. You have to honor the elder book. You have to honor the elders who are run by the elders book, who this elders book is made and approved by the governing body and is secret. Governments can't look in on it. You're not allowed to look in on it. We show it on this channel. I never ever signed any written thing that says I will not show it. No, I wasn't good enough to be an elder, so I never got trapped into signing anything. So on my channel, I show it. And I show where I get the elders book. Avoid JW. It's like a library for all of us. Nothing is hidden on that site. Everything is revealed. And that's the way it should be, folks. Avoid JW. That's a great site. We use it. It's not wishful thinking. It's positive thinking. It uses facts. And it's a site we can trust. And there's a lot of good writers on that site. We quote a lot of their articles, run a lot of videos on them. Now, over 1 million, here's what it says, over 1 million disfellowship shunned Jehovah's Witnesses are alive today. 10% of the active members. Over 1 million. The former members of Jehovah's Witness, Josh Caswell, sir, reached out to me after reading one of my posts about estrangement, and he asked that I explore the policy practicing in some religions of shunning. So this is excellent, this Josh guy. We can do all of this. You and I can do this by getting our letters out for change. We get those letters out to the MP, and we don't know where they're going to go. Ron Fruili in Norway, his letter went somewhere. Stitchen's letter in Denmark went somewhere. Lots of the letters go somewhere, and they cause action. They cause positive change, these letters. So this guy's letter did something. It went to Psychology Today. You might know some people that are writing articles in the medical industry. They might want to hear from you. So we can reach out to them, tell our stories, tell them what it's like to be shunned, what it feels like right now. It's an open wound that won't heal. In religious communities, shunning means cutting ties with members, even family, who don't explicitly follow religious beliefs. And the leaders demands who wish to break with their religions. How did that put it? Well, what they're saying is the leaders demands or who wishes to break with their religion. Yeah. So when you're shunned, if you go talk to someone that's shunned, you're breaking from your religion. You're going to be shunned later too. Religious shunning is a form of estrangement and emotional abuse. Shunning is widely practiced among certain religions, Jehovah's Witnesses, including the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Church of Scientology, the Amish, the Orthodox Judaism, to control the conduct of its members. A silent form of bullying and rejection, the practice more common among cult-like denominations, ensures that identity of a collective group does not tolerate individual thinking. This is about individual thinking, controlling people's thoughts. The Watchtower, the official Jehovah's Witness magazine, reports that 1 in every 100 Jehovah's Witnesses is disfellowshipped each year, a total of more than 80,000. Of these, fully 2/3 will not be reinstated. 2/3 will not go back. This means that more than 1 million disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witnesses are alive today who are being shunned, more than 10% of the number of active Jehovah's Witnesses. Because there's only 8.5 million, right? One man's personal journey after shunning gives this story of this Caswell, 45, who lives in Arizona. He's works as a diagnostics specialist for Pep Boys Auto Services. In his 20s, he faded out. He felt it was too restrictive. It didn't allow him to be a human. And he lost all his family and friends. So that is a high price to pay for just being a human, isn't it? Recent studies show that shunning has long-term detrimental effects on mental health, job possibilities, and life satisfaction. Intense loneliness and a feeling of loss of control over one's life are common after leaving. And the culture of informing on other members inside the Jehovah's Witnesses also leads to a continued sense of distrust. Like you don't trust anybody around you, and suspicion, even after leaving. We adopt those traits into us as people. Okay, I'm going to brief over this. Some of it I don't want to talk about a lot of the CSA stuff, but this fella had this happen in his life. So let's brief over this. Caswell, at 17, he left the religion. His father was an elder in the congregation, raped 6 of his 8 sisters. The organization, Kingdom Hall elders, said that they could handle the abuse internally. His father was disfellowshipped for only a month before being reinstated, and he believes his mother orchestrated the sexual abuse. He says, I honored my parents when I was living with them, he says, but I was never so happy, so I set forth to find out who I was. By the time he was 20, everyone in the congregation, including his sisters, had stopped communicating with him. Consequently, he went from but he knew no one outside, he said, when he left. So consequently, he went from one extreme to another, following a dangerous path on which he drank to the excess. He used crystal meth. Eventually, he became suicidal and ended up living in his car. How many stories of this do we hear? We have one of our creators online that lived in his car, MJ. For the last 19 years, he had been clean. However, he has no relationship with his mother or family members for decades. His father passed away a year ago. They were estranged at the time of his death. Studies on ostracism. Humans have a primal need for social support. Without a sense of belonging, a feeling of emotional safety and context, people come to fear that their very lives are at risk. They lose the ability to trust and connect with others. Instead, they become consumed by the task of surviving alone. So it's like, it's the worst torment. It's like getting kicked out of the tribe and you're out in the bush all by yourself. Because you're taught from infancy that the whole world's wicked. So you're out there all by yourself. You against the world. Shunning, therefore, is like a social death penalty, and studies prove this point. Exclusion has been found to cause pain that cuts deeper and lasts longer than physical injury, according to Dr. Kipling D. Williams, a distinguished professor of psychology science at the Purdue University. All these, this will be linked, and they have all the references for this stuff. So lots of research, folks, on this. When someone is shunned even by a stranger, even only briefly, Dr. Williams has found that they experience a strong and harmful reaction, activating the same area of the brain that registers physical pain. Imagine that. The crucial difference between physical and psychic injury is that physical damage heals, while social injuries linger. And in his studies of more than 5,000 people, Dr. Williams used a computer game to show just how 2 or 3 minutes of ostracism can produce ongoing negative feelings. Our studies indicate that the initial reaction to ostracism is pain, he explains, which is similarly felt by all individuals regardless of personality or social situation factors. Ostracism then instigates actions aimed at recovering thwarted needs of belonging, self-esteem, control, and meaningful existence. Caswell, who asked me to use his real name because he wants his voice heard, says the religious leaders know full well the profound psychological impact of shunning. That's exactly why they do it, he says. Shunning is not love. It's how Jehovah's Witnesses discipline members. It's a form of punishment. Well said. Well, that brings this video to a conclusion. Psychology Today, I will post that in the video descriptions below. And there's links to everything on this. Shunning's a serious matter. We want to speak out. If you're being shunned, if you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness, again, get your letter in to your member of parliament. Tell your story. And Psychology Today, this guy wrote his story into Psychology Today. And these guys are listening. The world is listening. Now's the time to talk. Well, folks, that's it for today. And I think it's time to go now. Well, until next time, keep living your life with love. Bye for now. It's time for us to go. We entered the farmer's market one last time to say our goodbyes. Nina wished us much confidence in our new journey ahead as we disappeared through the mist, but this time to a new land. To be continued in Book 3, Finding Purpose.